What's up, Roxstars? It's Rox coming to you today with a review for Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 16, episode 10, I believe this is. We're chugging on along, you guys, halfway through the season. How you feeling about it thus far? Have your feelings about these different personalities on the show changed? Do you feel the same way about the people that you felt at the beginning of the season? I think some of my feelings have changed. We're going to talk about it today, you guys, the review. Let's get to it, shall we? I say I'm gonna take some time off, y'all. All the cashiers, they was like, somebody stole her truck. It's like you can hear it all throughout the store. This Rox coming to you today with a review for Love and Marriage Detroit, Love and Marriage Huntsville, our book 4, Real Housewives of Atlanta. Let's get to it, shall we? All right, you guys, so the show starts with Kelly. We see Kelly with Chloe, and Chloe and Kelly are talking about her real father, and I was so confused because I was like, the way that Chloe was talking about the stepfather, you know, last week or a couple of weeks ago, I was under the impression that the real father was not in the picture. Of course, her stepfather is not going to even be trying to get her if her real father is still there and very involved in her life and active, you know? So I was like, oh, you know, so Kelly was like, her and Chloe's father actually get along very well. They co-parent very well, you know, so there's no problems there. And I was just like, oh, okay. Why was they? I mean, I guess I the only one that was like that? Anyways, they moved to a townhouse because of the divorce. You know, it's a temporary solution. I feel like this whole season, Kelly is like going through this divorce. So it's all about transition and many changes for her and everything. So she's just trying to make sure that her and her girls have a place to live, you know, a safe place to be. Might be smaller, but, you know, they got to do what they got to do. Okay. But yeah, it was a weird, short little segment. I was just like, I mean, I guess they didn't have nothing else to put in there. Now, let's talk about Shamia and Ralph at this dinner. You know, I'm going to say, before we get in this segment, I'm going to just say this first. You guys know from the beginning of the season how hopeful I was for Shamia and how much I really do like Shamia. And I've told you guys that in the past, not just this season, but in the past, I've always liked Shamia, you know, and I still do like Shamia. However, this segment with Porsha and Ralph and Shamia, like, kind of made me look at Shamia a little differently. And I was disappointed. Only because I felt like that shit was so underhanded, so mean girl. Like, I just feel like there's certain lines that people, you know, when you start crossing certain lines, like, I feel like you compromise yourself. That's the word I'm saying. Like, you compromise yourself when you, why would Shamia let Porsha talk her into doing something like that? I don't know if she even talked her into doing it, and that's why I'm just like, yeah, I'm cool on it. I'm cool on Shamia a little bit. She's still my girl. I still really think that, you know, her being a housewife was a good choice and all, but I just was like, this is not shit that you do. Yes, it just wasn't cool. So anyway, apparently Ralph and Shamia went to dinner so that they can talk about a podcast. Ralph was in a podcast with Sonya's husband, Ross, and Candy's husband, Todd. They had a podcast apparently, and it did pretty well, I guess. And so now he was like thinking that he could do another podcast. He wants to call it the Kings and Queens podcast, a battle of the sexes of sorts. I was like, oh yeah, well there's an idea. Like, they don't have 1,000 trillion gazillion relationship podcasts that talk about men and women in the battle of the sexes. I was just like, Ralph, been there, done that. I mean, but okay, maybe. So Shamia said that she didn't think it was a bad idea. She thought that maybe she could help him, okay? And I guess she was going to see what she can do about it. So, you know, once they get to the pleasantries of the podcast, now Shamia's like, you know, I'm sitting here with Ralph. there's no way that I'm not going to ask him questions about, the divorce with Drew. Do tell. Inquiring minds want to know. So she's asking him, like, what's up with the divorce? Your relationship with Drew, how'd all that even come about? And he said, they had a whirlwind relationship. I mean, I think the way he explained it, within 10 months, they had met, got married, and was pregnant. Okay, so a lot happened, a whirlwind romance. He said that they didn't really know each other, and I was like, okay, now it really does make sense. You guys did not know each other. We know how whirlwind romances go. They exciting at first, and then when the bottom drops out, you be like, oh my God, I'm glad I didn't stick with this fool. And Drew didn't realize the bottom was gone, and she had to learn the hard way, and maybe vice versa. Maybe they both weren't good for each other. I mean, not maybe, obviously so. What came out good of the union? Maybe the kids. That's probably it. Now, this is the first time that we really actually get to see how Ralph feels about the Super and Drew and this relationship of him producing her and everything. And we find out that Ralph really actually doesn't like it. I thought Ralph was okay with it. I thought Super said that he had spoken to Ralph and said, like, you my homeboy, Drew is my homegirl. I'm not trying to do nothing. We just trying to work together, and that's that. But apparently that's not exactly how the conversation went. So right when we get to this part of the conversation, in walks Porsha.
Now let me tell you something. Okay, this was not planned. I was not going to dinner with Ralph. This ain't tit for tat.
I was like, this ain't tit for tat ass lie, Porsha. You know good and damn well the only reason why you were there is because you want to be smirchified. Shout out to Don King. Drew to Ralph. All right. And I mean, all is fair in love and war. I mean, I get it. Drew's did some shit to Porsha, so now Porsha. But I was like, Drew kind of was in the name of the show. Drew did what she did, but now Porsha is involving herself in the middle of these two people's divorce. You, especially being in a divorce, what a divorce all entails. You would at least think that Porsha would be like, that shit is fucked up. I wouldn't wish that on nobody. I'm not gonna do. But that is not how Porsha operates, So just the whole fact that Porsha is there with with Ralph and Shamia's laughing, the whole thing's like, hey girl. I mean, it was almost like, it was so pitiful to watch, because it was almost like watching two girls run a nigga pockets. Ladies, we all have. Well, maybe we all haven't, but I can remember back in the day, we would see some simp ass Negro and we would just run his pockets at the bar. It's terrible to do, but girls will do that. Buy up all the drinks with no intentions of ever giving them none. Barely might dance with them, all that. It was like that was what was happening here, but it was just in a dinner setting. Ralph not getting no ass at the end of the night. All he did was sit up there and provide a scene for Porsha and Shamia to tell Drew business about this whole supposed affair with Ty, which I actually do believe that shit is true. Drew's been over there doing her shit too. And apparently we've got a crossover between Basketball Wives LA and the Real Housewives of Atlanta, because apparently over on Basketball Wives LA, it's the same topic happening. Ming being with Ty, and Ming and Ty apparently are having problems, and Ming is accusing Ty of still messing around with Drew Sidora. Ralph is just sitting there, and Porsha is just literally sitting there reading text messages that she and Dennis was having between the two about this whole filming with Drew. Okay? Now, Porsha already told us that her and Dennis have a really cool relationship, and we were able to see it. I do believe that they do. Okay? So when you have a cool relationship, sometimes when you be joking around with your friends, you might say something inappropriate, but this is just between you and your friend. Okay? You guys laugh and keep keying about it, some shit, that you would never want like the general public to see, but you guys had a key about it. All right? To me, I feel like this is what happened when Porsha and Dennis was having this text message going back and forth, and she was claiming that he was trying to mess with Drew. And he said, okay, now I've done something like this. I'm not trying to give him an excuse, but I'm just trying to give you guys a scenario. When somebody, if somebody say, shit, I'm not trying to fuck her, I told Drew, honey, ain't nobody trying to fuck you. You better, run me my money. That's what you need to do. Don't be trying to give me your ass. Give me my money. You do something like that. They might not necessarily have said that, but you joked around, you said it in a text message. Of course, in text message, you cannot ever decipher what the tone is, context, all of that, right? So all you do is you have this message that's just sitting here and you read that out loud. We don't know what he said before or after that. Like, it still doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly what he was saying. And I just feel like Porsha was slick as fuck for saying and doing that.
Do you know that she told Shamia that she was gonna make enough money to put Pilar through college?
Ralph was like, she did? Shamia was just like, yeah. And I was just like, oh, Shamia, now you know when Drew said that, she was joking. See, that's the thing. People are just saying what people said, but not really explaining what Drew was saying. Y'all know Drew is definitely not my favorite person. I don't really even like Drew. But she was kidding. She was playing, and it was nothing for her to be, for Shamia to be going back and telling Porsha. But I guess Shamia was just like, let me tell Porsha, that's supposed to be her best friend, so she is going to tell her. I mean, I get it. But it still was like, it wasn't a moment where it was like Drew was really, I just was like, you really making you making a big deal out of this. So I was mad at Shamia because why you ran back and told Porsha that when you knew it was really a joke. But then I guess Shamia's in between a rock and a hard place, because then people will be like, well, why you didn't tell me? Okay. So you damned if you do, you damned if you don't. Fine. So she tells Porsha telling Ralph. Now Ralph mad. Again, we in the middle of this divorce. This is all shit. He could go back and tell the divorce thing. Like, Porsha, really, honestly, would you want somebody going back and saying shit to Simon about you? That once was your friend? All right? Just the general feel of what women go through. You can't even see it in your heart a little bit to get a girl a pass when it comes to shit like this? No. So she's now giving him more information. Ralph tell her about, her messing with Ty. I was actually surprised that they did not beep out Ty's name. I was just like, is that because is Bravo and VH1, are they linked? I don't think so. Because Basketball Wives still comes on VH1, right? They didn't go to MTV, Bravo. Because I was just like, I mean, they did not try to, I guess maybe Ty had already released her name and allows them to use it, because they didn't bleep it. They was like, Ty, she was having an affair, very clearly. And the same vice versa for Drew over on Basketball Wives. I mean, maybe there's been a name. I don't know. I guess you can just, real Rockstar lawyers, you can just say people's name on these shows now. So, Porsha all flirty.
Ralph, did you sniff around when you was married?
He was like, of course. He was like, where'd you sniff at? Shamia was like, Porsha, stop flirting with Ralph. Okay, Porsha can't help it. It's innate. Okay, but Ralph, did you cheat in your marriage? He says that he didn't cheat. Then he was like, Porsha, I can't believe that you and Drew, didn't get along. I mean, you guys was like this. She was just like,
open them fingers up and move them apart. We was never like that.
Okay, Porsha would like you to think it was just a business decision. Then they start just really going on talking about Angela and how she always inserting herself in other things. Nobody asked her for it, and they just really ignore Ralph. That's when I really knew they was running the nigga pockets, because when you ignore somebody, but they got the bill, okay? It was just sort of like, hey, waitress, bring me another drink, and whatever he said he won, even though he's paying. I mean, treated him like a straight up buster. I was like, you ought to feel real stupid, Ralph, for what you just allowed them to do to you, to Drew. I mean, I knew that's what they was trying to do. I mean, I guess Ralph did come out looking better in that scene, but that, as a woman, I was just like, Porsha, you and Shamia was fucked up. And I looked at Shamia, I was just like, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Tore your drawers a little bit. Still like Shamia, still good. I'm still cool and everything, but definitely not up there on that shelf that I had put her on when we first started. Now, moving over to Angela. Angela says that she is somewhere around, did she say $2 or $5 million in debt? Whatever it was, it's a whole bunch of fucking money. She has like 5 properties, she says. She has 5 properties. And, so she's got a lot going on. She's stressed. I'm sure she is trying to flip these homes. She's got to pay these holding costs and all of this to make sure that, she don't lose any of her property. She has a lot on the line. Now, she's invited Kelly over because I guess maybe she was seeing if Kelly might be interested in buying some investment property, because Kelly just had to move into the townhouse, remember? Or maybe Kelly might even buy it for her family to move in. Well, Kelly was like, I felt bad about the baby comment, okay, because, there's all now the rumors floating around that Angela, and Charles had a side baby on her, okay? And so she was like, so she just wanted to come over there and just kind of maybe apologize for that and kind of have a conversation with her and all this. So at first they walk around the house, and Kelly is just like, oh, okay, low ceilings, okay, no water in the pool. I was cracking up. I really do like Kelly. She's funny to me. And she has navigated perfectly, staying out of the mess, throwing a little shade sprinkle here and there, but still likable and over on the sideline. So perfect place for her. Angela is really taking the brunt of everything this season. She was selling that house for $3 million. Kelly was like, hey, I don't know about $3 million. I was like, yeah, definitely don't know about $3 million for that either. Anyways, they sit down, so Kelly is telling her, oh, Angela, you look good today. Angela was like, oh, today I look good. And she was like, no, girl. I'm not saying today. I'm saying in general, you always look good, Angela was like, okay, because around here these days, I have to really keep my guard up. Angela asked Kelly about the divorce. She said that, she's a one-man band right now. It's just her and her girls trying to get through. Okay. Then she asked Angela about her marriage. Okay, her and Charles been together, I think she said 10 years. They've been married 8 years. And it has been great. Her and Charles, until the end of time. These two are ride or dies for each other. And she was able to finally explain this whole side babies thing. Okay, so according to Angela, she said that Wendy Williams apparently had just broken up with Kevin, and they were at a red carpet somewhere, and Wendy was there, and she was talking about the breakup and the side baby that he had on her. And Angela said that she walked up to her and was just like, Wendy is just a baby, kind of like, go back and get your marriage back, And Wendy was just like, oh, you act like you've been through it. And she was just like, I have, okay? And, of course, Angela was married to Charles at the time, so Wendy assumed that she was talking about Charles. And so Wendy went on her show and said that Angela told her that Charles had a side baby on her. But she was not talking about Charles. She was talking about her oldest daughter's baby, her oldest daughter's father. Okay, he's the one that did that to her. So not Charles, somebody else, but Wendy assumed it was Charles, and that's how that rumor got out there. She said it was during the same time that Charles got into the whole mix-up at MSG, and they threw him out they tried to ban him forever and all that. And I guess Charles was going through some sort of semi-midlife crisis, and it put their relationship in problems. So they ended up breaking up for a while. It just really caused a lot of problems. All this stuff happened at the same time, but they made it back to each other and they are good. But no, there are no side babies, nothing from Charles to her. But then she starts telling her how she spoke with Shamia, and Shamia had told her all these things about Porsha that, maybe Shamia had never told Porsha, that she felt uncomfortable telling her. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking, and anytime they start talking about conversations that they had off camera, it makes me raise an eyebrow, because reality shows know that conversations need to be had on camera, because we need to see it. Otherwise, we don't really know if it really did or did not happen. That was something that Candy said to us many seasons ago, and it always stuck in my head, that Candy said that she makes sure during the time that they film that anything that she does, she makes sure that she waits until the cameras are around. That way, she knows that whatever she said, it has been documented and people know exactly what the exchange was. But when you start talking about people having conversations off camera, I'm just like, I don't know. So when she was telling that to Kelly, not that I felt like Angela was lying, but I was just like, I don't like when they have conversations off camera. because what exactly was said, because even the way Angela might have interpreted it, we might not have seen it that same way, so I'm already leery about this conversation. But she tells her she doesn't want to be seen as Portia's sidekick and being all up in Portia's ass and the way that people always say and all that. And I was like, why would Shamea tell Angela that? And Kelly said the same thing, and that's why it was also raising an eyebrow, because I was like, Shamea don't even really halfway like Angela. So I was like not believing the story at first. I was like, either Shamea is playing both sides or somebody's lying. Now later on, Angela actually invites Porsha to her property. In general, Porsha thinks that Angela and her have an okay relationship now. I was like, you think that, girl? You just said I should fuck her husband. But I mean, I guess this is y'all moving on. Porsha get there all done up. Okay, think solid gold meet Jane Fonda, dance workout meets, meet me in the trap. It was like hood. I was just like, girl, what kind of tennis you about to play? Okay, she looked cute, but it was like not for all made up and shit. No, about to play. So we play a couple of rounds or whatever, and then they sit down, they talk. So first she's telling her about how people always have accused her of being a helicopter parent, and she believes that's the reason why her oldest daughter didn't tell her that she had ran off and got married. That's the one that was there. Porsha tells her that she's having this Pampered by Porsha event, and she wants all the ladies to come. Angela's like, oh wow, am I invited? And yes, she is invited. And she's gonna invite everybody, even including Drew. Angela asked her, do you think that you and Drew can work it out? And Porsha was just like,
no, because something else happened and fell in my lap. I was able to have dinner with Ralph the other day.
Not only was she pleased that she went to dinner with Ralph, but she's sitting up here explaining it all to Angela. But she did that because she knew that Angela was going to run right back and tell Drew. So she told Angela that she told Ralph how Dennis had said that she said that Drew wanted to fuck him, but instead he told her to run him his money. Angela was like, oh, no. I know Drew did not say that. Or at least she's hoping that she did, and she's going to give Drew at least a chance to explain. But so then Porsha tells Angela that Shamea told her that Drew said that she was going to put the baby through college and all of that. And again, it was a shady comment that Drew made, but it was just a joke. The thing is, Drew, it was a shady comment. It was a joke, but it was a shady comment. But everybody shades on the show, so why can't Drew do it either? Like, Porsha's on this campaign, like, I guess she was like, if Drew gonna do what she did, I'm fixing to smear her name. I mean, I guess one little small part of me cannot blame her, I guess, because all this Porsha has been saying she didn't want them to film together. But it just feels real mean. It just feels mean as hell. So then I think that once Angela started to realize that these girls be doing all this talking and going back and forth and everything, she probably could see that there's like maybe a little space in between Porsha and Shamea that she can get in between. And she was probably like, okay, y'all saying all this shit. Let me just go on and say what Shamea said to me. So then Angela starts telling Porsha, oh yeah, I talked to Shamea off camera, the same thing that she said to Kelly. I talked to her off camera and she told me this, that, and the other. She's telling all this to Porsha, and Portia's getting more and more upset. So then all of a sudden Porsha starts crying, and Porsha was like, okay, that's it. And Angela was like, oh, wait, don't cry, Porsha, I'm sorry. I was laughing because I was like, she probably was sorry, but I think she probably was like, okay, well, you guys like pushed me to doing this. Like, you guys was all up in my marriage talking about this side baby and everything. I'm not trying to break up your friendship and shit, but if you guys are going to be trying to lean on me over some bullshit, then I'm going to try to throw it back at you. Shamea gave her a perfect opportunity, and I'm still, at this point in the show, I'm still like side-eyeing it and thinking to myself, like, why would Shamea tell Angela that? I'm just like, but when Angela told Porsha that, I was just like, oh, okay, so now Porsha knows, right? So then I'm smirking to myself. We gonna see how it all plays out later. Jumping over to Britt. We see Britt. She's talking to her husband. You know, he feed her his one question, and then she just runs off with the rest of her segment. I don't even know why the husband is there. What is he there for? What does he do? Anyway, she said that she's excited about her mother coming to move in with them, but she don't know how this is going to work out because they both like to walk around naked. Anyway, she tells him that, she's trying to see eye to eye with the girls and everything, but she's still having some issues with Angela. It's just not working out.
She needles in everyone's business and she just lacks accountability.
I don't even know. Britt just be talking. Britt just then learned a couple of big words and that's all she says. Accountability. Anyway, her husband tells her that he called one of her sisters. Cher, was it? The one that we met? I think we met Cher, or maybe she was just telling us about it. I remember saying that her name was cool. But anyway, they're going to have a conversation. Mike is very protective over Britt, she says. Mike don't like that Cher and Britt ain't getting along and everything. And he is the husband, and what he says goes, and he is going to fix this relationship. So he wants them to figure they shit out. Okay, Mike putting his foot down. Okay, jumping over to Drew. So we see Drew at home, with the kids. She's preparing food for the kids. She's telling us how her and Ralph aren't talking. Remember last time when she was just like, you a whole ass idiot. She was just kept on saying how stupid he was. Now they're not speaking. They can't tell the kids that they're getting a divorce, so that puts an extra strain on everything. She's worried that the kids are going to be damaged by this. They probably will be in some way, so yes, get them some therapy. Right now she's in therapy because she just don't know how she can handle this whole situation. Now she's having therapy with Dr. Ken. Now I didn't even know anything like this, but apparently something happened. Apparently Drew and Dr. Ken and Ralph have fallen out. Like Dr. Ken had fallen out with them as a couple. Okay, I guess Drew maybe liked him, maybe Ralph didn't, and then they all fell out and all that. So now Drew kept him on, but he was just like, keep me away from that nigga. Did she say that he was a maniac? I kind of remember some talk about that last season. I don't really remember what the beef was between the two of them, but I mean, they worked it out and he's helping her through this new stage that her and Ralph are going through. She's telling him about all the drama going on, this whole rumor with Shamia and Porsha. Porsha telling telling Ralph that the super had said that, she wanted his work in exchange for, payment for ass and all of this instead of paying for money. And, so she was hurt about that. And why would Dennis say that? And I said, girl, he was just joking. You was never supposed to know that. You was never supposed to hear that. He was stupid for putting it in text and sending that to Porsha. He probably thought that he could trust that Porsha at least wouldn't say nothing about that. But Porsha, being who Porsha is and mad about the fact that Drew is on the show and all that, and then still needing something to exploit as far as a storyline, because she don't have nothing going on with Simon, because Simon got her locked up in court and she can't film nowhere in her own life, really. So now she up in the middle of all of this stuff over here. Why? I don't even know. Why are you trying to ruin this girl's divorce and what she's trying to get? Because what? You don't even want to be with Dennis. You don't want to be, Drew ain't really done nothing to you. Yeah, she's filming on the show. This is her job, and she sings. Dennis supposedly can help her. It's just, it's messed up. Like, it's wrong. But I understand why Porsha was doing it, but it's still like, damn, Porsha. Like, damn, Porsha. And she'll be like, why? And now Drew over here with all this. Drew, like I told you guys before, Drew don't stand up to the big heavy hitter girls like she does the new girls, so she is still intimidated by Porsha and them. So Drew still ain't gonna open up and say what she needs to say, okay? But they treating Drew that like some of this shit is just straight up fucked up, just in general, just like damn. But moving on, child. Now Porsha's event. This is for Pampered by Porsha.
I want to make sure that I am being taken seriously in this business world. And I feel like I ruined that identifying solely as a housewife.
But she ain't no wife no more, so she's got to use this company to make the money that she needs. I said, girl, this show is where you make your money. I'm sure all of her businesses, she makes some money from that, but Real Housewives of Atlanta is where the bulk of your money come from. We see Kelly and Britt on their way there. They're in a truck. Drew gets there, and I was actually shocked that Drew came. I wouldn't have, but I guess we have a show to do. So Drew comes, and she says that things have been intense between her and Porsha, but Porsha did invite her, so she was going to go and just hopeful that things will work out well. Mia gets there. So everybody is there, and everybody is putting their lingeries on and all, and beautiful, the big feathers that designer anyway, I always see them on Fashion Bomb Daily, but with the big feathers and ruffles and shit. They all had on the big robes, and they had on beautiful lingerie. Everybody has nice bodies and all. And Porsha said,
today is gonna be a day of rest and relaxation. I have a photographer here, and he is going to take a picture of you. You can give it to your husbands, your boo things, or your side situation sips.
While they're all sitting there in all their beautiful different colors of these feathers and ruffles and everything, they realize that this ain't just, them sitting there relaxing, bitch. This is a campaign that ain't nobody signed a contract for. Are we doing a commercial? We doing photo ad print work for Porsha? I was like, honey, Porsha done finessed y'all. She done got all of the nice, pretty things for you guys to put on, and then she got somebody there to put pictures to it, and now she gonna put that shit on a campaign, and it is going to generate money for her. And nobody got paid for it. So anyway, everybody is there. Porsha says that she doesn't even have the bandwidth to even deal with certain things, the certain topics that have come up with recently, as of late with this girl. Animosity with her best friend Shamia. There's now that Angela has told Porsha what has been said, now Porsha's feeling away. It's a whole lot happening. Kelly and Shamia sit, and Kelly tells Shamia that Angela told Porsha everything that Shamia told her off camera. Now this is where I was watching real closely, and I was trying to see if how Shamia was going to play this, because I was just like, are they trying to play this up for the camera and trying to control this audience, or did Shamia fucking get drunk? Because now I'm sitting there and I'm like, this sounds like Shamia got drunk, lowered her guard a little too much, and told Angela a whole bunch of stuff off camera. Maybe even trying to just get to know her off camera, just trying to get to know her a little bit, and told her way, way, way too much. So now Shamia is kind of upset that Porsha hadn't said nothing to her about it. I don't know. I think that Shamia already could see the writing on the wall. She was seeing things happening, and she knew this was making it very, very easy for her to be like, oh no, Porsha. This is like the same shit that Porsha did when we found out that Phaedra was the one that created the lie about Candy being in the dungeon or whatever, and how Porsha played that shit off and was just like, oh no, she didn't know, and Phaedra was the one who told her and everything. Well, this is kind of like the same sort of situation. Shamia could see that the shit was about to go left with Porsha anyway, and she just let it happen. These two been friends, but there's been whispers about their friendship being strained anyway, so it was already on shaky ground. And like I say, Angela realized it, and once she realized that they was really on her, she was just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna tell Porsha and tell her all the shit that Shamia said, since everybody's so worried about me. So remember, they had that conversation. Now it's time for the lady that's there. She wants them all to lay back. They're gonna meditate, and feel peaceful and all this, right? Hi. That was the police right there, y'all. He's kind of cute, little. Anyway, so they all lay back and they're meditating, okay? And we're supposed to be quiet when we meditate, right? Shamia don't feel peaceful. She don't feel like meditating. She definitely ain't about to be quiet. So she sits up. And she's just sitting there. She's looking at the rest of the ladies. So I guess Kelly, maybe out the side of her eye or something, saw that Shamia was just sitting up and was not doing anything. So Kelly kind of gets up and runs over to her and kind of just like, hey, girl, you supposed to be meditating. Shamia says she don't feel like it and she ain't doing it. She don't feel peaceful. Then Porsha hears all this ruckus going on. She sits up and she's like, shh. And Shamia's just like, you know, she don't say it, but she's just like, bitch, don't shush me. Okay, maybe Porsha ain't feeling peaceful down there either, you know. So now she's mad and she wants to have a confrontation with Porsha. Now that everybody is kind of sitting up and we can't get through this meditation, you know, let's have the conversation. So Angela says that, you know, that they were trying to move it on. She was seeing that Porsha and Shamia was trying to move on. Porsha thinks it's possible. Shamia thinks maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Okay, and then we have the conversation. Well, Shamia never says anything. The ladies start telling Porsha, well, Shamia thinks that, you know, that people think that she's your lapdog and that she's up your ass and that you did not want her to be on the show and the film and you didn't this and that and the other, you know. So they're telling Porsha, and Shamia is sitting right there. And Shamia was just like, well, I mean, I think it's real interesting that everybody can tell you what I said. I can tell you what I said. I did not say that. I can tell you exactly what I said. Okay, I'm like, well, what did you say, girl? Well, Shamia feels like that she shuts everything down when it comes to Porsha, but it's not reciprocated. And that Porsha does not take up for her and shut shit down for her the same way that she does for Porsha, no matter what. No matter the topic. She makes sure. And I'm going to give it to Shamia. That's true. She does shut things down for Porsha. She runs interference for Porsha. She asks the questions that Porsha wants to know, you know. She does whatever needs to be done to make sure that Porsha looks good. Except that now you are not a side character. You are a main character. You need to have main character energy. You are a housewife now. You don't have to play second fiddle to Porsha, you know. But that is probably hardwired in Shamia. They've been friends since they were kids. You know, those roles continue as you get into adulthood. So maybe that's where it is. So, you know, Shamia is saying all this. And now Porsha and Shamia are both getting emotional. And it's something that the ladies have seen the weakness. And they're you know, like some damn vultures over a dead carcass on the road. You know, they're all swarming in, but their relationship is way deeper. And the fact that these ladies was able to just pick it apart right there when they were sitting at the table is just really too bad. And it's like, when Cynthia was sitting there watching the whole thing happen, Cynthia was just shaking her head. And so was I, because I was just like, now you guys, they were the ones who forced the rift. And I guess it's because they could see that it was trying to brew. But if they hadn't done that, I don't think that the rift would have happened this season. It wouldn't have shown, because Shamia wasn't going to say nothing. She was going to continue to be that way. Maybe still feel how she felt, but still being Porsha's wingman, basically. She was still going to play that role. And Angela was like, well, I wouldn't have known that Porsha didn't come to your wedding if Shamia didn't tell me. Well, we all knew that, but maybe Angela didn't know that, but we did know that from the show. Okay, when Porsha started giving the reasons why she couldn't do it, now I was like, girl, that ain't the reason that you told us back then, but I mean, okay. Because back then it was, she couldn't sit up. Well, she did say something along those lines, but remember, it was that she couldn't sit on the plane for that long. But how many times did you flew your ass back and forth to Africa when you and Simon were together? So that was bullshit. We knew it was bullshit back then. We knew Porsha was jealous back then. Anyway, this episode, I'm still enjoying the season. I'm not like at that point where I'm just like, oh, I'm so sick of them or anything, but it definitely made me look at the ladies a little differently. But I am disappointed that Shamia let that happen. All right, you guys, make sure you thumbs up the video, comment, subscribe to the channel. I'm Roxanne. The channel is itsrox. Everything else I do will be in the bottom bar. All right. So I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I plan on doing the same. Until next time, Roxstars. Bye.